myself. I'm with Jessie. And friends, I cannot wait to we're officially starting the gardening season of 2026, right? And just being able to touch and feel all of this is pretty dadgum amazing. I'm just watching to see when it actually goes live here, y'all. Hey, I must be live. Somebody just said hello to me in the comments. So, flower friends, Merry Christmas. We are still Christmasing here at my family anyway. We still have one big party to go. I'm wishing everybody a very Merry Christmas. And we are heading into not only a Happy New Year, but a gorgeous gardening New Year. And I still don't see it on my app. Let's see here. Oh, there it is. Okay, now I know we are live, flower friends. It is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler. And friends, I'm still over here just loving on some seedlings. I am, while I love almost every piece of my flower farming business through all these years, it's the seed starting big push that happens in January, February, March, and even April for us that I absolutely adore. And how are they beautiful? This is Ami Green Mist, which is one of my favorite Amis, and we'll hear more about that stuff. So, y'all, I can hardly believe they're letting me do the grown-up big girl show on Friday. I'm not by myself today. Jessie, who is in Kansas, is helping me. She's here in the show. Y'all give her a lot of love from the comments because she's the one that's in there answering your questions. But I am managing the products here, and y'all know how easily distracted I am. So I'm going to try to do a job that we can all be proud of later, right? So friends, if we've never met before, my name is Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I'm the owner of the Gardener's Workshop. And today's show is a good one because, friends, if you haven't already heard about it, our year-end sale is the biggest sale we have all year, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, as well as we're going to be setting the stage for a gorgeous 2026. I'm going to show you, of course, my favorite way to start seeds and demonstrate that for you. And we're going to be doing our in-app drawing, and I'll be giving something really good away. And of course, we're going to wrap it all up at the end with a Q&A. And so if you have a question that comes up, please post it in the comments. Just put a question mark or at Lisa at the beginning of the comment. And Jessie gathers those up, and then she'll feed me a few of them at the end of the show. And we'll get those taken care of. So friends, I wanted just to show you this. So we absolutely love it how y'all are telling your friends about our live gardening show. And if you want to share it with your friends, right down here at the bottom, that button in the middle there, right next to the love heart, is the share button. And you can invite your friends to come over if you think they would love to be a viewer of the Gardener's Workshop live show. So please do that, and we appreciate everybody that does. Now, we have some housekeeping, as always, because we do have new people every week. Please, when you're checking out, please ensure that you have an accurate email address and phone number. We have lots of typos, and we can't ship to you if we don't have a valid email address. The shipper will not accept them. Now, if you've just come upon me here in social media, I'm so glad you found us. But what I want you to know is that we have a free app, and this is what it looks like. And the level of the experience that you get is so different in there. First off, you get to communicate and talk back and forth with the other live viewers in the app, as well as you can participate by submitting questions for the Q&A at the end, as well as you can enter the giveaway when you're inside the app. When you're on social, we can't see what you say or ask about. So to get the app, it doesn't take but probably less than a minute. Go to your phone's app store, search Gardener's Workshop. We have two apps. You want the shop app. It's free. They're both free. It's the Shop app. Download it. Takes about 30 seconds. And then pop inside and we'll be right here waiting for you. And that's what I'm inside of right now. So would love for you to do that. But there's even more. We have really special shipping rates here inside the app only. These do not apply to our website. When you place an order for seed packets only, shipping is free. We pay the shipping when you just order seed packets here inside the app, okay? Secondly, there is a cap on products that are ordered here inside the app. You pay $11.95 when you order a product, whether you order one product or 10 products. You only pay $11.95 once. We do ship to all 50 of the United States, and remember that these special shipping rates only apply to the app, inside the app. It does not apply to our website, right? And so frequently, and it's really going to happen now that we're in the big end of the year sale, if you go to a product and it says out of stock, get notified. I would recommend that you get notified, because that simply means that if the team is bringing more stock over from our website and our app do not communicate, y'all. And if they're bringing over more stock, that simply means when they put it in stock here in the app, you'll get a little ding on your phone saying, hey, your item's back in stock if you want it. And so that's really important, especially when you're in the sale. You don't want to miss out on something. And friends, if you're seeing people post the sunflower emoji, those are what we call our Gardener's Workshop family. Those are our online course students, as well as members of my private Flower Farmer Club. And they're just sending us love, and we absolutely love it. So thank you guys so much for doing that. Now, this week, guess what? I am giving away another $25 store credit, of which I have to bring it up. Gosh, just thought about that. I'm the one pushing the buttons, y'all. $25 store credit. So if you hit that button, the white button that comes up, then that way puts you on a wait list, and that's just the list that we pull from at the end of the show, okay? So get on there to be entered to potentially be the winner of the $25 store credit. And again, this is only in app, right? Y'all, I have so many things to look at here. All right, so I want to give you some details, and I'm going to leave the giveaway box up there. All right, so the year-end sale details. Ears on, y'all. It's 25% off in-stock products while supplies last. I will tell you, we go through some stuff, okay? And 20% off our online courses now through midnight on New Year's Day, okay? So that's January 1st, 2026. For our online courses, you use a coupon code, but for our products, there are no codes needed. The prices are as marked. And in fact, I think they are discounted here inside the app. So we're going to be talking more about that in a minute. So it's time to stock up, y'all, on the things that you need for the coming season to be not only to save money, but to have what you need when you need it, right? I mean, we're talking seed starting supplies and equipment, garden bed supplies, harvesting supplies, arranging tools and supplies, books, and courses. Y'all, we have everything you need to have an incredibly successful 2026. Whether you're growing for pleasure or for profit, it all applies. Now, Tuesday night, I'm doing a pop-up show, y'all. I am doing a courses-only show. That is December 30th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'll go through all the courses, and you can find out which one is the right one for you. So that'll be Tuesday, December 30th at 8 p.m. All right, y'all, let's jump into this show. Now, first up is... my goodness, y'all have just blown us away by how popular the new edition, our unlimited exclusive book, spiral bound cut flower handbook. And so what is so significant? If you use your books for planning and researching and just, having a bunch of different books open, which is what most gardeners and farmers do, right? Having the opportunity for it to lay totally flat it just changes everything, y'all. I mean, it just frees up your hands. So, the Cut Flower Handbook, it still comes with the bonus of the flowers that didn't make the actual book. We wouldn't fit, right? So the regular price on the spiral bound is $44.95, and then you deduct 25%, y'all. And I don't have the sale prices, but I'll just keep reminding you. These are the regular prices that I'm telling you, but then there's 25% off. So the Cut Flower Handbook, spiral bound, and I feel fairly certain that we're gonna sell out of these through the weekend. So grab yours now. And would love for you to have it. I sign them and they come with the bonus. Now, the regular version of the book is still available. We still have the beautiful spine still on this one. And then this is what the PDF download bonus that we send you. You get a link to download 6 additional flowers, and we recommend that when you print it at 85%, because that way it fits within your book and you can just put it in. This is 5 more cool flowers and 1 warm season flower. And both versions of the book come with that. The book includes 66 different planting profiles, feature flowers. It's just a powerful planting tool, and would love for you to have one. Now, my poor little book that's stuck in the middle between Cool Flowers and the Cut Flower Handbook is how I think of the middle child, of which I am, by the way, y'all. Did y'all know that? I am the middle child. Is my book, Vegetables Love Flowers, which is in fact one of my favorites, because you know what this book is all about? It's not about growing vegetables, y'all. It's about highlighting why vegetables benefit from being in the presence of flowers. And it's because of the company that flowers keep, all the pollinators and the beneficial insects and the birds that they bring in that eat insects, y'all, right? But this book is really about my gardening philosophy. And so this book really shares kind of my garden analogy. And it also, if you have a vegetable gardener in your midst that you're trying to get them to put some flowers in, this is the book for that. So Vegetables Love Flowers is regular price $25.95, and this comes with a bonus video book study, which is a lot of fun. I interviewed my sister and the photographer, and it's just a lot of fun stuff that's in addition to the book. So Vegetables Love Flowers. And then, of course, my friends, the book that started it all, right? Cool Flowers. So Cool Flowers is my first book, and this little book's only about 150 pages long, and this is really about the concept, like the first step into growing cool season hardy annuals. The group of flowers that are most frequently skipped by gardeners and farmers because they have an awkward planting time. We just haven't figured out when we're supposed to plant them. This little book will actually guide you to do that. So this book is regular priced, I believe it's $22.95. And then, of course, 25% off, y'all. And this book also comes with a video book study. This is the first one I ever did that for. And this really takes some time back in my life, y'all. But I love telling like the behind the scenes and additional tips in the video book study. So that's the Cool Flower book. And it has directions for fall, winter, and very early spring planting windows. All right, now, so those are your resources. It's like you should be like, this should be next to your, on your end table, next to your bed if that's where you read, or in your family room. Don't let this winter slip away. So let's take a look. I'm going to do some seed starting, but before I do that, I'm just going to show you a little bit some seedlings. So right out of the gate, we start, when I mean out of the gate, I mean January 2nd, a week from today, we starting seeds officially again. But I just wanted to show you some sample seedlings. This is Ami Green Mist, and these are pretty big. These are like leftover from previous plantings going into winter. And I just couldn't get rid of them, y'all. These are growing in the 3/4 inch block. Look how beautiful these plants are. Really beautiful. And by the way, these green trays available over at thegardenersworkshop.com. And guess what? They're on sale. All right, and then look at this. These are 2 more Cool Flowers. Here is our yarrow. This is a tray. This is one of the small trays. 2 sets of 20 yarrows. So this is 40 plants ready to go to the garden. Soil blocking is so space savvy, y'all. It just makes it so possible for anybody that doesn't have a greenhouse like me. I still don't have a greenhouse, y'all. And this is 40. This is Cress Green Dragon, one of my very favorite cool flowers. So I want to show you how I actually start these, right? All right, I'm just clearing the deck, y'all. All right, so soil blocking is what really ushered me in. Let me make sure I've got everything where it's supposed to be. Soil blocking really ushered me into flower farming because I didn't have a greenhouse, and I knew that my city would not allow me to have a greenhouse where I was. So I knew that for me to be able to have volume seedlings, I had to find a way. And soil blocking did that. So this is my soil blocker, and this is a tray of the ready-made blocking mix, which I just added. Let me add a little bit more water. So this has been sitting in here since, I guess it's been since Tuesday since I used it. And so I'm just adding in a little water. You want the blocking mix to be kind of almost on the verge of mushy oatmeal, right? Because you want it to be kind of loose, but not, we might even need a little bit more. It always takes more water than you think. And then what happens to me is I end up adding too much water because of my impatientness. I'm just gonna mix here in the middle, that's all we need. All right, so see how much looser this is? Then this over here is just clumpy and chunky. So, and yes, y'all, this is a potato masher, which I find to be the best tool, and I've tried them all, for mixing your soil and water and striking off. So, I hold the blocker on the stationary bar, two-handed job, y'all, and then I push it down into the mix twice to make sure that my chambers are really well filled. And then I just strike off the bottom so it's nice and flat. Now, we use these reusable foam trays with no drainage holes, and they're flat on the bottom. You place the soil blocker on the tray and give it a squeeze. And just that quick, with a golden retriever hair to boot, we just made 20 of those little 3/4 inch blocks, which is what those plants that I showed you were growing in, right? And I'm gonna sow some eucalyptus in there. But y'all, I just can't tell you, the soil becomes the container. That is what is so incredibly awesome about this method. And so let me move this, and I'm gonna sow some eucalyptus for you. So in addition to cool flowers that I'm starting right out of the gate January 2nd, eucalyptus is actually the first seed that I start. And that's because eucalyptus, even though it's a warm season tender annual, is incredibly slow growing. So that's why I start it first, to have the biggest plant I can have when I plant it in like mid-April, okay? So on every seed packet that you buy from us, it tells you everything you need to know right here. How far, how many weeks in advance to start the seed before you want to plant it, whether you cover it with soil or not. It just tells you everything right here. And so this says, do not cover seed with soil, okay? It tells me that right there. So that means I'm gonna surface sow. And I use this little aluminum seed pan because there's no static electricity in aluminum. And you just don't know how much static you're fighting in other types of little trays. And when you moisten your toothpick, I don't know if y'all can see that little black dot on the end of my, did you see how fast that jumped on there? Let me move this down here so y'all can see what I'm doing really well. All right. So let me grab that seed again. So we're not going to cover it with soil, so I am just going to firmly place it on the surface. Getting another seed, and I'm just firmly seeding it on the surface. I'm making certain that it has good contact with the soil so it can continue to get moisture and to have contact for warmth and all that good stuff. And I could just do this for the rest of the day, y'all. See how quick and fast it is? When you use a toothpick, saliva is stickier than water. And that's it, y'all. We just planted 8 eucalyptus seeds just that darn fast. Now, let me show you how you can get started with soil blocking. So let me set this aside. And so let's see where we are. So we're already on the soil block maker kit. Now the soil block maker kit is the #1 item that we have sold since 2005, y'all. It's really kind of crazy. But I've learned through all these years that most people struggle with seed starting just like I did. And it is incredibly successful, and it's so space savvy. It's great for home gardeners. So this is how it looks when it's new, y'all, not my old dirty one. This is the small 3/4 inch blocker that makes 20 of the small blocks. You get a bag of the ready-made mix. This is 6 quarts, y'all. This makes 500 to 600 of those little individual blocks. Goes a long way. It's incredibly efficient. You also get in this kit, and this kit is like the deal of a lifetime. Before I finish showing you, so the kit, because it is a kit, is already discounted 19% because we made it into a kit. And now you're getting 25% more off that price, y'all. This is like anybody that's been on the fence now is the time to jump. All right, the rest of the story. It comes with my Seed Starting Made Easy online course, and you have lifetime unlimited access. I mean, you own it for life. And then it comes with your choice of either 3 cool season seeds, perfectly timed to start your very early spring, or 3 warm season seeds, which would be later starters, right? And it also comes with 5 of our reusable foam trays. This holds 3 sets of 20. There's your seed pan, toothpicks with a holder, and the little wooden markers, which I actually use for tools to mess around with my soil blocks. So you get all of this. The regular price is $89.97. I'm afraid to even figure out what the discounted price is. So let's just say it's 90 times 2 is 18 plus 9 more. Oh my gosh, y'all. If you are ever needing to buy a gift for a gardener, for yourself, now is the time to strike right before seed starting season, right? All right, so that's the soil block maker kit. Now, let's see what's next. All right, reusable trays. Y'all, I'm trying to be so good about this. Now, one of the things that you learn when you start seed starting, especially with soil blocking, because it takes up so little space, you can start so much more, y'all, is making the most out of the real estate on your seedling heat mat and even your grow lights. And that's why we use so many different size trays. So this is that little tray you just saw. This is a 5-pack for $1.95 minus 25%, y'all. You get 5 of those, and they're all available in 25 packs as well. That'll hold 20. This is what you saw the seedlings on, 2 sets of 20. This will also hold 2 sets of 2-inch blocks. That makes 8 blocks on here. And then this is the size that comes in your kit, and this one's $3.95. And again, they all come in 25 packs, and they're all 25% off, y'all. So now's the time. And so we use masking tape and our garden marker to mark on these. I mean, literally, we use them for years and years. All right. So now, let me see where I am. Now, if you are of the school that you want to make your own blocking mix at home and not purchase the ready-made, I understand shipping's expensive. It costs a lot, you know. All right, so we have, this is the nutrient that you add to your compost and either peat moss or cocoa fiber. The recipe's right here on the front of it. The recipe's always on our website. We don't try to keep that behind a door, y'all. It's always there and available. And this is nothing but powder, first off. That's why it's so hard for people to find. You just can't find this like you used to. This is 50% rock phosphate powder and 50% green sand, which is powder. And they're mixed together. And this will actually make 12 recipes. A recipe is about equivalent to one of these bags. This is about 20 cups. And this will make about 13 of those bags when you add your compost and your peat moss or cocoa fiber, okay? And so this is, where am I here? This is $19.95 minus 25%, y'all, right? And the directions are in here, and it's just you mix it with your stuff, sift, and move on, right? Now, I want to show you another way you can get this, and that is with our soil set. All right, so the soil set, we recommend, or I recommend, sifting all seed starting mixes or ingredients. That means you sift ours, you sift all of them, because you don't want chunks in there. That's just doesn't work very well when you're trying to germinate seeds. So that's why we made this soil set. And in this soil set, you actually get that 3-pound bag that I just showed you of the nutrient mix, makes 12 recipes, right? You add your compost, your peat moss, or cocoa fiber. I have to think this through, y'all. So you get that. You also get the fungus gnat fighting kit. If you've ever started seeds indoors, or maybe you're a houseplant person, you know what I'm talking about. Fungus gnats are a reality. We prevent them by using the little bits. That's what this is. You can see the little bits there in your watering can once a week. That takes care of the larva that's developing in the moist soil that are laid by the adults that fly around. And these yellow sticky traps, which I hang one from my grow light on one shelf. I lay one down on top of blocks on another shelf. They just happen into them, and that captures the adults, right? So that comes in here. You also get a seed pan, which you can never have enough of these, and our little toothpick dispenser. That was our 25th year anniversary toothpicks. And the bottom line is, here's the sifter, y'all. This fits perfectly, locks in right here to a 5-gallon bucket. It makes sifting so neat and easy to do. And so this is the sifter. You get all of these things that go along with seed starting in this soil set, which is $69.11, which I believe is like a 5% discount already putting them together. But then you get 25% off, y'all. I mean, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking, are we really doing this? We really are. I mean, and now is the time to strike. So the soil set, $69.11 minus 25%. All right, now you can purchase all this stuff separately. And let me show you. This is the sifter, one that fits just perfectly on a 5-gallon bucket. Regular price is $24.95. It's got a 1/4-inch mesh, and we just recommend sifting everything. When you find chunks, for instance, in our ready-made living mix, our mixes are all compost-based, and the chunks are where the biology lives. And they're necessary to keep stuff alive, right? So that's why we sift it before we use it for seed starting, and then put those chunks in your garden or in your containers. Don't throw it away. You just don't want it in your soil block. So this is $24.95. And all of those things, as I mentioned, are available individually. All right, now the rest of the story I hit the wrong button here. There we are. So I'm often asked, particularly when we're talking about cool seeds and hardy annuals, do you really need to use a seedling heat mat? Yes, y'all. Yes, it's the #1 reason people fail. I won't say #1. It's in the top contenders of why people fail with seed starting. Seeds need a trigger to tell them to when to start sprouting. Moisture helps with that, but the other thing is temperature. And if most seeds germinate best at 75 to 85 degree soil temperature. And you're thinking, my house is like 72 or 73. that back bedroom's pretty warm. I'll put it back there in grandma's room. Well, if the room air temperature is 70 degrees, that means that your soil is actually 15 to 20 degrees cooler than the air temperature. So that means if your house is 70, your soil is like 50 to 55 degrees. And that's why most people fail with seed starting. And so that's why we have to use a seedling heat mat to heat up that mass of soil that is so much cooler. So this has a built-in thermostat that is triggered from the air that warms up 15 to 20 degrees warmer than the air temperature, y'all. And when I do it for cool season, I just take cookie cooling racks and place them over top of the heat mat, and that just gives a little buffer zone to kind of cool it just a smidgen, but it's still continuous warmth to tell those seeds when it's time to wake up. Seedling heat mat is $39.95. We do have a big one over on our big website. Everything over on the big website is 25% off too, y'all. So you can shop at both places. You can get a big one over there, but this one is $39.95. All right, now, I just talked to you about the fungus gnat fighting set. You can buy this individually. I mean, outside of that soil set. It's $23.65, and that's 5% savings of buying these separately, which they're available that way. Then you take 25% off, y'all. And so this traps the adults. This kills the larva. It takes 4 tablespoons of these bits for a whole gallon. But if you don't use a whole gallon of water and you want to pretty much use it up, so you have to figure out the measurements and just use less in a smaller volume of water. I put it in on Tuesday and water with it on Wednesday. Just let it sit overnight. So that is $23.65. Let me tell you something else I love to steep. And that is, we have been asked about this for so many years, y'all, of people wanting to make homemade compost tea. And there are a lot of different ways to do it. But for the benefits of especially watering houseplants and seedlings, we have compost tea bags. Literally, y'all, it looks like an oversized Lipton tea bag. And I'm trying to break it. This has high quality compost in it, and there in this bag comes, I believe it is 12, contains 12, sorry, I had to look for that. And this is what I do. So this doesn't replace fertilizer, it doesn't replace anything else that I'm doing. This has life in it, it has microbes in it, you know, those chunks I was telling you about. This is more of that. I like to do this on Fridays. I don't do it every Friday because I don't remember. When I'm done watering on Thursday, my seedlings, I fill the watering can back up, a gallon, and then I drop one of these bags in and let it steep overnight. And it has other instructions on the back of ways to do it. And then I water with it on Friday, and it just puts more vitality and microbiology back into your soil blocks. And again, y'all, 25% off. It's a great time to order your supplies for real. Now, this is, especially if you have house plants and you're watering soil blocks, this is a great choice, and for flower arrangers. The long spout watering can. This is stainless steel. It holds 4 cups of water, and it has a slow pour, and it lets you reach where your arm might not be able to go, especially for flower bouquets. You know, you put a big bouquet in a vase, instead of having to take it over to the sink and smush it and fill it up, this is what flower arrangers use, y'all. And so this is the long spout, and it is regularly $29.95 minus 25%, y'all. But that's a really great one, especially for people that have house plants too. That's just so pretty you can leave it sitting out. So let's talk about some cut flower supplies. So, you know, it will not be long, and we'll be filling buckets up with water, right? And so we have all the conditioning supplies, flower food, which people can pretty much figure out. But Jessie has put in the show today, and let me click on it. I did not click on the watering can. So let me just click on that for just a second just to get it into the lineup. Sorry, y'all. You know me. I get to yammering on. And so there is the long spout watering can. And now I have our CVBN tablets. This is not flower food, and it's not a replacement for flower food. This is what's called a pre-treatment. And that means something that we put one tablet, it's little pills. We put one pill into each harvest bucket that has a gallon of water. And that gives each stem, when it hits the water, a long, fresh drink of bacteria-free water. It is the first step in conditioning our flowers that make our flowers last so long. And so particularly those flowers that are known as the dirty dozen. Those are flowers that pollute the water quicker and more than most other flowers do. Who are the leading ladies in this lineup? Zinnias, sunflowers, marigolds, dahlias, daffodils. There's a list of them on our website. You can see them all. But we use the pills on all of our harvest buckets. This will not harm any flower, even hydrangeas and basil. It's just easier for us to put them in all buckets. So you can there's a couple different ways this comes. You can get one 80-count bottle for $18.95. You can get two 80-count bottles for $29.95. But here's the bar. If you're a flower farmer, this is a bottle of 800 pills. Sounds like a lot unless you're growing a lot of flowers. For $71.95 minus 25%, y'all. I'm telling you, it's a deal. And then here's something else you might want to think about. Did y'all know that we have these little black buckets? Totally love these guys. These are 5-liter flower harvesting buckets. They come in a 5-pack. They're $21.95. And guess what? They're 25% off. I love this for bouquets. When we're making mixed bouquets, you can fit 3 in here fairly easy. You can decide. These are great display buckets at the farmer's market. They just look uniform. You can put your sticker on the outside. You can even puffy paint them, y'all, and decorate the outside and even put the price on there or something. I could just go on. I'm full of myself today, y'all. So 5-liter buckets for $21.95 minus 25%. And speaking of 25, let's see if I can successfully go back to the top and click the giveaway. Just a reminder, y'all, that this is one lucky in-app viewer will be chosen for the $25 giveaway, right? So hit that button now and get on that list, and we'll be announcing that right at the end of the show, and you have to be here to claim it. And then Jessie will just drop that baby right into your cart. All right, let me see where we are. I think we're getting to one of my favorite parts, the flowers, y'all. All right, so I did that. And remember that I am going to be doing a little Q&A at the end of the show. So do @Lisa in the comments and type your question, and Jessie will gather those up. Now, I'm going to share with you all the seeds that I'll be starting next January, starting next Friday, y'all. I'm getting all tongue-tied. And so let me get back down from the giveaway, get back in my lineup here. And, all right, so I'm going to show you some of the flower seeds that I'll be starting, but I always like to start our seed and flower talking off with proper storage of your seeds. These are desiccant packs. Just like when you buy a bottle of Tylenol, it's got that little desiccant pack. That's what takes care of condensation, humidity that gets in there, any moisture. We do the same thing for our seeds. Keep them cool and keep them dry. You can get a 2-pack for $2.95 or a 10-pack of these for $9.95. And this is one of those things you just want in your toolbox, so when you need it, you actually need it, right? All right. So the frequent flyer questions, the question that we always get is, what seeds am I starting first? Which seeds am I starting in January? Which cool flower seeds am I starting for very early spring? So we have lined them up here, and I won't say that it's exclusive, that I'm not starting anything in here, but these are the lion's share of the stuff that I'm starting for very early spring. And so just very quickly, what is very early spring? Very early spring is 6 to 8 weeks before your last spring frost. Mine is mid-April. 8 weeks back from mid-April is mid-February, y'all. That's like Valentine's Day. And I need to have transplants ready to be planted in mid-February. Because if you're late, then you're running out of that runway that we have given these plants, the 6 to 8 weeks, to get established and ready to grow before spring actually starts, right? So if there's no other time that I really hold our hand to the fire to start on time, it is very early spring planting. But before we get into very early spring, I already mentioned that I start eucalyptus, very first one I start because it's so slow growing. So this is Silver Dollar. This is the classic, the one that I think is the most recognized. Love this stuff. I love all the eucalyptus. I grow all three of them. I find all three of them to be equally as hardy and ready. And this is Silver Dollar, which is the biggest, I guess the most recognizable of them. And then, I know, y'all, I'm always saying this is my favorite. I'll tell you why I love this one. This is Parvulagum. Look how little that leaf is. You know what that means? It is super easy to use in mixed bouquets. When you have big leaves and they're just showy, that can be as bad as it is good in a mixed bouquet. Parvulagum just blends in with the crowd and does whatever you want it to do, and that's why I love it. And it's a dark green color with kind of a reddish stem. And then if you want a showboat eucalyptus, this is her. Polyanthumus. We call her Pollyann. She has these really big leaves that dangle. And I don't know, I have to look up the word when they're not like the other, like Silver Dollar where the stem goes through the leaf. These just are so beautiful. These are beautiful standalone in just a handful of them. Very popular, and they're pretty green. I would say that Silver Dollar is the most fragrant of the three, but the other two you can smell, but they are not as prevalent. So the next flower that I start, it doesn't take us but a nanosecond to start all the eucalyptus. Next up on our list is stock. Stock I only plant in very early spring. It's pretty quick from seed to bloom. So we don't want to plant it in the fall, even though it will survive. And this is Kat's Ruby. Ruby was my mother-in-law. And look at that color. This is such a beautiful color. So stock is a one stem, one flower. We plant 8 rows in a 30-inch wide bed, so we start a lot of stock seeds because they don't take up much room. And we have it blooming for Mother's Day. Now this is a really sweet mix. This is the pastel mix, and while you would think that this is kind of popular, if you deal with florists, it will be. If you deal with event people, it will be. But most retail customers are looking for bright, jewel-colored stuff. But this is a beauty. Just depends on what your plan is, right? Like this is a color that is always popular. This is Kat's Blue. It is blue, right? Sometimes the names are so funny I just forget. But that's actually purple, y'all. I don't know why they call it blue, but it's purple. Stock has a real peppery kind of fragrance, that, what do you call that, clove kind of smell. People really love it. We loved it because we had it blooming for Mother's Day. And if you can sell pink flowers any time of the year, it is Mother's Day for sure. You could never have enough. And they're just so beautiful. And I love them when the tips aren't open yet. And again, I grow them outside in a garden. We plant them in mid-February frequently because we make our beds for very early spring last fall. We typically are like sweeping snow off of our bed tops to plant our stock. Stock doesn't mind it cold. It's just too quick to plant in the fall for us. But that is a beauty. And then this is another favorite color depending on who you're selling to. This is apricot. And that's a really popular color, right? But again, it just, whatever your taste is, and who your market is. But salmon is a really beautiful, it's actually called apricot, sorry, not salmon. And that is another really great one. And oh my gosh, y'all, this one is so pretty. This is cherry blossom. This is the softest, this is like a pale bubblegum color. This is so beautiful. And it's called cherry blossom, which I think the name even makes it even prettier, right? So cherry blossom, and it's like, I know what I would think is, oh my gosh, I can't start all these colors. Sure you can, because you only plant them like 3 inches apart. That's the key with stock, because there's only one stem and one flower. And when you plant them, they don't bush out, they just grow up. And you want to crowd them so that they grow tall. And then y'all, this is the one that's the tallest of any stock I've ever grown. And it's a popular color. And guess what? It's the color of the year, white. How crazy is that? White is just always, I mean, white goes with everything. So it doesn't matter what else you have to go in your bouquets, white will make it better. If you're selling to commercial customers, they can never have enough white. I mean, wedding season, May and June, here it is. This is Cat's High Double. Totally love that one. And then this is just another great color. This is lavender blue. And, you know, having the different bright jewel color kind of things, you could actually make a bouquet just out of stock. And so that's just a really super sweet one. And I've always loved this one. And they call it yellow, but y'all, it's not really yellow. It's like ivory, and that makes it even more useful, in my opinion. Ivory pretty much goes with all the different colors. And, you know, that romantic kind of Victorian look, this just lends itself. This with cats, ruby, really, really beautiful. Really, really pretty. Totally love that. And I grow all of them in 3/4 inch soil blocks. I will tell you, I don't think there's any, all of them, everything I'm showing you today. All right, so that's all the stock that I'm going to show you today. Now, the other family that we grow a lot of, and I fall plant it, and then I plant it again in very early spring, and that is only one series of Sweet William. Not all of Sweet Williams are granted equalness in when you plant them. So this is the Sweet William, they call it Lavender Magic. It's the Amazon series. So Amazon is the name of the series, and there's several different colors. It's the only ones that I plant in very early spring. And this is a really popular color, y'all. It looks similar to the Rose Magic, I'll show you in a minute, but when you grow them side by side, they're different colors. And if you're selling to florists, they'll definitely buy both colors if you have them, you know? And so this is the Amazon Lavender Magic. I was almost going to call it Rose Magic. And this is a great one. This is, again, the Amazon series. This is cherry. They call it, they call them neon cherry. And they are very, very vibrant. The reason that I only grow Amazon in very early spring is this does not need cold vernalization, which some biennial Sweet Williams do. The other series that we grow, a couple of the others that we grow, Dynasty, Sweet, and Bow, all three have a tendency to be a little too short. And if you plant them in very early spring, they're really going to be short. They don't have time to grow up, so we fall plant them as well. But these we plant again in very early spring. So cherry is a great color, and this is my favorite color. Here I am still back on lavender. All right, so I just brought up the cherry. So it'll be in our lineup. Sorry, y'all. And then also here is the purple. And I want to also mention at the bottom of your screen where it says shop right here, it brings up everything that's in the show. So you don't have to remember names and that kind of stuff if you're new here. So this is the Amazon series purple. And y'all, this is one stem. It has a branching head. They're fabulous bouquet makings. And so that's the purple. And then here's the one that you can sell dump truck loads of. If you're selling to customers, you'll sell a lot of this. This is the Amazon series Rose Magic. It is bicolor pinks and whites, and this is so popular at Mother's Day. So very, very popular. And they hold up well. They're great garden growers. So that's the end of the Sweet Williams. So let's move on to a really underused family of flowers, in my opinion. And I used to not use them enough because you just got to figure out how to grow them and when you're supposed to plant them. And that is straw flowers, y'all. Straw flowers are not only amazing cut flowers, they're so great for native bees. They love them too. So first up, we're going to look at the one that I wouldn't grow 2 tons of this color. But this color is really cool to add one piece to a bouquet. You don't want to have a whole bouquet of these because they're dark. Even though with that bright center, and they call this one purple red. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty beautiful. And it actually, all the straw flowers are like born dried. So they hold their color. That is a pretty cool one. But here we go again, y'all. Another white flower. You can never have enough white. And I'll just tell you that if you're planning on drying, this is too late. That's too far along. This over here, see how it's just cracking down here? That's how you want to harvest them for drying purposes. But white is amazing. This one's called Vintage White. We love that one. We love them all. And then, me and my bright colors. This one's called Silvery Rose. This has like more white underneath with a rose kind of blush on it. Really love, again, bright colors are what people are looking for, y'all. And then look at this one. Speaking of bright, this one's name is actually Bright Rose. This is just heavier pink. And the Silvery Rose, it really varies from year to year with the seeds. Sometimes it's more white, but this one is more pure pink. And it's just a great bouquet ingredient. And if you've known me very long, you notice the color of my shirt. Orange is my color, y'all. Love, love, love. This is called King Size Orange. And this is just so great at the end of the season. So straw flowers. We only plant them in very early spring. I don't fall plant them, even though they're borderline hardy enough, because we found they grow tall and abundant enough when I very early spring plant them. But here's the hook. You can also succession plant these. We plant first ones mid-February. Then every 4 to 6 weeks, when we were having a lot of bouquets, we would plant every 4 to 6 weeks multiple times. While they will perform under warm conditions, they prefer cool, and you can get them started so much earlier, but you can also continue to start them into heat. Ours are chest high that are planted in very early spring. They still get way tall enough, even when you're planting them in summer. This, for the end of summer, is absolutely fabulous. We never had enough to actually dry them. We always used them up, sold them, and used them all before we could dry any. And this is a great bouquet ingredient. This is golden yellow, and this is the perfect stage to harvest, y'all. Not this, like this. Especially if you want to dry them. When you dry them, and they're open like this, they look good at first, but then that center just turns brown and ruins the whole party, right? So that's the golden yellow. Totally love that one too. And then this one, copper red. This is kind of like that purple red we looked at earlier. It's a cool color. You just don't want to, you would definitely plant more pink and more yellow than you would, and white than you would these, because they're just dark. They just make it dark. But here's the number one, I believe, selling straw flower. This is the peach mix. Sometimes I want to call it apricot. This is gorgeous, y'all. This is so beautiful in bouquets. And people clamor for them. You can, that's just one of those flowers. I just love those boogers. And then if you're just meeting straw flowers, here's the mix. This does not have the peach in it though. That's a separate mix. This is the mix with all the colors I just showed you without the peach. And that's the king size mix. And then the next family that I'm starting right out of the gate is Rudbeckia. Rudbeckia is a cool flower. They're hardy annuals, and they're slow growers too. They aren't hard to germinate, just like eucalyptus. They aren't hard to sprout. It's just how slow they grow, and it's just really easy to kill them during that slow growing period. And so first up is my most favorite to date, Rudbeckia, because look at those petals, y'all. They're fluted. You know what that means? Not only are they cool looking, but you don't get pest damage. You don't get those cucumber beetles eating on them like you do with the other Rudbeckias. So you can really let them get developed in the garden, which means they last forever. I love Chimchimney. We fall and very early spring plant that to stretch out the bloom. And I only wished I could say that this won't get damaged. This is Prairie Sun. This is my favorite Rudbeckia for bouquets because it's got a green eye. It's bright and light, and it's a good size. It's not huge. But if you're having a bad pest year, you have to really be on top of harvest them or they'll get spots. Spots is bug poop and pee. We do know that, right? And that's what you want to prevent from happening to these guys. And if you harvest them in the early morning, put them in to conditioning products, they will continue to open. We CVB in them, then the next day they get dropped into regular holding solution, and that just keeps them coming right along. And now this, y'all, is one of the first 3 flowers I ever grew as a flower farmer. That is Indian Summer. This booger is about 6 inches across. Really too big, if you ask me now. It's hard to keep hydrated, but they're beautiful. And there's a mix. Not all of them are that big. This is the classic Brown-Eyed Susan. Totally love her. So many others to choose from these days. And then this has always been a popular one. I've heard people talking about it, Sahara. And when you fall plant this, it grows 30 to 36 inches. People were complaining about how short. It's because of the timing of when they plant it. So Sahara is another great one. And then this was a surprise one to me several years ago. I looked at that and I thought, I don't know, it's kind of dark. Y'all, this is a favorite of native bees. If you want to find a bunch of native bees, go to this is Denver Daisy. And this is like velvet in here. And this is, I don't grow a ton of it, but I grow it every single year. And then we have Cherry Brandy, which is another dark one. You don't want much, but boy, when you put one in a bouquet, it just makes everything pop. People love them. They absolutely love them. And again, these are all natives. They're all Rudbeckia hirta, and they are native plantings, and that means our pollen, the bees, the native bees are so thick on them. And this is my go-to Rudbeckia because she's the earliest one to bloom in my garden for Mother's Day when I plant them in the fall. That's why I love planting it again in very early spring to extend it. And look how voluptuous the petals are. Totally love this one. That's Goldilocks. We're almost done, y'all. So we haven't talked about this one yet. So Clarkia, better known as Godicia, they keep changing these flowers' names, y'all. It's making us crazy. So the white Clarkia / Godicia, there's just nothing else like them. And they are so beautiful. And I have moved from, I only plant them in very early spring. We get incredible stems. And they're just a great flower. I love them. And the white, again, is, can never have enough white flowers. And then look at this pretty color. That's the lavender. Love that one too. And this is the one that got us started. I think there's actually a beautiful picture of this. Here, this is the Godicia right here. Look how pretty that is. That's on the back of the Cut Flower Handbook. It has just got some beautiful flowers, but this salmon color is what really caught our eyes at first. So this is the Grace series, and this is salmon. Totally love that. And then this one which is Clarkia elegant salmon. This is a different species of Clarkia, and this one's harder to germinate, y'all. I will give you that. But when you get it, it is so well worth it. This looks like a woody. It looks like, not a lilac, but like, I'm trying to think of where they have blooms on the stem, long lasting in the vase. Totally love this stuff. And that is definitely, we don't fall plant that one either. We just plant it in the very early spring. So that wraps up my flowers. And friends, y'all aren't going to believe what I'm getting ready to show you. I received in the mail, we got Wednesday, the printer's copy of the calendar, and it's the real calendar. You know, we're anticipating receiving all of them next week, and they'll be shipping out to you. But I thought I'd show it to you. You want to see it? You know, I mean, oh my gosh. I go from the sheer terror that the pallets are going to be kidnapped by terrorists or something. You know, that happens. I just listened to a couple had their whole stock, a container of, they sold some beauty product or something. It was hijacked. And it was like, I should have never watched that. Now I go from worrying about losing the shipment, right? Then I go to, is it going to be beautiful as I thought? And y'all, it is more beautiful and more useful than I ever anticipated. So I'm going to let you see it. Oh, but let me bring it up. I think it's on here. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not in here. Oh, there it is. I just didn't hit the right button. So I'm bringing it up because let me tell you this before I get all, you know, starstruck by having it. The pre-orders are ending on Sunday night because once it goes in stock, and it is not part of a sale, it is not going to be on sale. So don't think you need to wait to buy it for that reason. It's an exclusion. But when you pre-order it, you get in on the live workshop that I'm going to be doing January 12th, walking you through the 9 planting windows with you counting back and doing your dates for your dates, right? So let me show you. Here it is, friends. Spiral bound on the top. It's got a little hanger up here. This is the cover. I still can't flip it right because my arm's in the way. This is the instruction page. Here are the 9 planting windows that I'm going to be walking you through on that live workshop. And then we've got all the months in here. Look at these big blocks for you to have for one day. I've got tips on the bottom of each one, and then, if I can do this without messing this up, the last page has even more of my tips of like how I write on this calendar to make it a useful, powerful journaling tool to look back on in the years to come. So friends, pre-order, it's $39.95. $11.95 shipping, and I can't wait for y'all to have yours. And you know, it's kind of like how the author gets their book, one copy, you know, before the book comes out. That is kind of how I got my hands on this, and I just can't wait. I cannot wait for you guys to have your copies. And so be looking for that to start happening next week. But pre-order before December 28th, midnight. That's when pre-orders in and actually sale will start. Not on sale, but for sale. And they do not qualify for the year-end sale. They are an exclusion. All right, remember to stick around for the Q&A at the end, y'all. And let me... All right, so... remember that those special shipping rates that I told you about are only applicable here inside the app. They do not apply over on our big website. And over on our big website, that is where we have so many resources for y'all. We have videos and blogs, and you can connect with our 2 podcasts. I host Field and Garden, and then Lane and I host Seed Talk. You can connect with both of those over there. And this Wednesday, even on New Year's Eve, I did it on Christmas Eve too. I'm hosting Ask a Flower Farmer over on Instagram, on our Instagram account, and love doing that for you guys. And remember that Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, I'll be hosting a show right here, same time, same place, not same time, on our courses only. I'll be going through all the courses, explaining which one might be right for you. And then of course we'll have a little Q&A at the end as well. So you don't want to miss out on that. And remember to meet us back here next Friday for the live shopping show. And then, I normally do one Wednesday nights at 8. Won't be happening this week because it's New Year's Eve, right? But I'll be having the Tuesday evening show. And don't forget to turn your notifications on in your app, because when we do these random pop-up shows, which I do, you'll get notified, right? And let's see, don't forget, friends, it's time to start Cool Flower Seeds. Don't let the time get away from you. And we have a winner of our $25 store credit, and I hope you're here. And so our winner is Aaron Harrell, Hearl. I'm sorry if I killed your last name. I'm sure I did. Aaron, Hearl. Aaron, if you are here in the comments, just give us a holler, and Jesse will drop a $25 store credit right into your cart. It'll be there ready and waiting for you. And thank you for participating. We love it when you guys do that. And I don't think we've ever had the person not be here. And it works. We just love that so much. So stick around for the Q&A. But if you're heading out, thank you so much for joining us. And I can't wait to see you on the flip side of 2025 into 2026. All right, so let's jump into our questions here. Do you start all cool season block seeds on a cookie cooling rack over a heat mat, or do you put burlap over them? Those are great questions. So the question is, do I start all cool season hardy annuals on a heat mat with the cookie cooling rack? And I'm just sitting here thinking about it. Yes, as a general blanket answer, yes. But there are a couple that I take off of that before you do all the others. Normally you put them on, you watch for approximately 50% of sprouting. And when that begins to happen, that's when you move it off of the heat mat over to a grow light, right? Well, there's a few that doesn't quite work as so well with. That is any of the Amis and the Daucus. Daucus is Queen Anne's lace. And so what I do is I put them on that heat mat with the cookie cooling rack for about 24 to 48 hours, just enough to tell that seed, wake up. And then they want cool conditions. And then I just literally take that tray and just set it over on a shelf in the grow room. It doesn't have a grow light on. The room lights, it's got windows in that room, but they just sit over there on the tray, and it's just amazing to watch. Ami Magus. You totally think, well, I don't know what I did wrong this year. It is never going to sprout. And then you come in the next day and you have like 100% germination. So it works. So that's how I do that. Where are you keeping the Ami until spring? Well, first off, those are demo plants. Those are plants that will probably never be planted in my garden. So that Ami that I showed you was the Ami that we actually fall planted. We always start more seedlings than we need to make sure we have great plants, and that's a whole conversation in itself. My garden is better this year than it's ever been. I've planted less and planted better plants. And it really works. So those Ami plants were leftovers, and they're too big now. We're all planted out in the garden, and they would not be happy and healthy if I held them for 8 more weeks waiting for my next planting window, right? So I hope that answers your question. Seeing all your beautiful seedling makes me wonder if I am behind on starting seeds for very early spring. Are these seedlings just for demonstration on the show, or are you really growing them now for planting in very early spring? No, these were not started for very early spring. I don't start doing that until January 2nd, a week from, I can't keep up with what the days are, y'all, with all these holidays. Today is Friday, a week from today. Yes, these were planted on my farm for fall, which to us, that's like mid-October to the end of October. And these were leftovers, and we kept them because, yes, I use them for demonstration plants. It 100% helps people to wrap their head around what we're doing when they actually see seedlings, right? And you know the other thing why I really keep these big plants and why I love showing them? Because there's so many folks that just don't believe that you can grow seedlings to full size to be planted outside in these little blocks. Well, not only do we do that, but we grow them past that point, and those plants get water but no food. So they're not being kept good looking. That's just the way that they grow in that environment. So yes, to answer your question, they are demonstration plants. They are not going to be planted in my garden. I struggle with what to do when my soil blocks dry out while trying to germinate my seeds. Should I miss them? Okay. So that's a really great question, and so I would guess that you have them on the seedling heat mat. So I find that the learning curve that I had to come around when I was first starting is that I never really watered thoroughly as much as I thought I was, okay? So when you water, I pour water into the tray, and I water, however many trays I have. And then when I get to the end, I go back to the first tray. Is all the water gone? It is. Then guess what? You probably didn't put enough in there. I put a little bit more in there. And then I do the same thing with each tray. I look at the next one. Does it have water? And then I come back, because I added water, I come back and look at that tray again. And 9 out of 10 times, sometimes I will part the little plants and look down the middle, and there are still dry blocks in the middle. And I know you're talking about germinating, but I'm just saying that when you put the blocks on the seedling heat mat, when you initially make your blocks, they should be really wet blocks all the way through. We then lay wide weave burlap, which you can find that here in the app, on top of the blocks after we've sown the seeds to help retain moisture but allow air circulation. The next morning when I come out, you have to be sure you're thoroughly wetting the blocks. My grow room gets pretty hot, and they're on a seedling heat mat, and I still only water once a day. And when I come out the next morning, they're dry. They're not bone dry, but they are dry. So be sure you're watering thoroughly, and try using wide weave burlap to cover the blocks with. And we remove that as soon as we see any germination starting to happen. Can I winter sow the giant poppy seeds here in snow-covered New Hampshire? You can. The problem with sowing seeds, I bought the initial seeds that I got from a guy in Michigan at a big conference I was at. I cannot remember his name. And I'm not certain when they planted them, how they planted them. But I know that for us, I think, let's just look it up in the book. I'm not sure what their winter temperature is. But the problem with direct sowing into cold conditions is the seeds just sit there and wait until they get their preferred conditions to sprout. Then you perhaps lose your benefit of the cool flower concept. However, if you're in New Hampshire, I think you said, your summers are not, thought I just heard something running, looking over my head. Hope I don't get a squirrel in here. In New Hampshire, I would guess that you don't have hot, humid summers like we do. So you would definitely be able to direct sow them closer to your last frost date. You could sow the seeds now, but they're not going to sprout until they get their heated conditions. So wait a minute, I'm looking. 0 degrees is their winter hardiness. So I don't know what zone that is. See, the book doesn't go by zones because it's international. I think that's just zone 7, maybe. But yes, you can direct sow them. They will not germinate until it warms up enough to tell the seeds to wake up. But I would guess in New England that you will have poppies blooming potentially later into the summer than we do. They bloom here in May, and then it just gets so hot we don't have them anymore. So I hope that helps you. How difficult is it to start Clarkia? So it depends on which one you're talking about. The Godicia Clarkias, the ones that we used to call Godicia, are pretty straightforward and easy. It's the elegant salmon that can be a little testy. And Bobo and I tested a couple different ways last year, and then we didn't have very good luck. They kind of got forgotten, which is what happens around here when we do something out of the ordinary, unless somebody has it on their radar. So the Clarkia elegant salmon can be more difficult to germinate. It needs like Lisianthus, it just needs very specific conditions: cool air, warm soil, and not overwatering it. And that really is hard when they're slow, right? But the Godicia, we have great luck with. Chesapeake. I have unplanted seedlings from late fall. Should I plant? I have unplanted seedlings from late fall. Should I plant out now with the Bio 360 and row cover, or wait for very early spring? Pot up the soil blocks in larger pots. They look healthy still, but things got away from me. So Chesapeake is like 45 minutes from me, but they're more south. You're more southern. And so if your ground's not frozen and you've got a place prepared and you have hoops and row covers, I would say if you have larger plants, I would not hold. Holding plants is never a good idea. I mean, they look great today, but in 5 weeks, they are going to be diseased, potentially because of the stress of not having enough space, that kind of stuff. So I would try to plant them. I think you have less risk planting them and giving them some added protection than holding them. Yeah. Craspedia hasn't survived winter for us here locally in Yorktown. Any suggestions? Okay, so ours just came through that craziness we just had of, what was it, 16 or 19 degrees or something. They're covered, of course, but Craspedia is on the edge. If I don't give them protection when the weather dips below freezing, the foliage is very sensitive, and deer love it. Deer will eat Craspedia foliage even on plants this big. They seek it out. I don't know what the fragrance is or something about it. So deer eating them is a huge problem, which led me to get a deer fence. But yeah, planting healthy, large enough transplants in the fall, and then providing hoops and row covers. And I actually double covered when we had that deep dive into the teens, because our wind chill, they said, was almost in single digits. And I knew that Craspedia, Tweedia, and Ami are kind of like vulnerable at those kinds of temperatures. But they're definitely excellent for very early spring planting. That was definitely one I would restart now if I didn't have a good stand from fall, for sure. Do florists buy carnations? So the carnations that we grow, the Chabad, which is a French heirloom variety, are small. They're not as big as the ones that the florist, are used to, but they're very fragrant. They smell a little like stock, and they have a spicy kind of fragrance. But yeah, they would buy them if they have good length. And the flower head is big enough. It's kind of like Gomphrena. If you can package it and prepare it for them well enough, and at the right stage, because they last a really long time, and they have a bunch of different, in the mix is so many different colors. We really love them. All right, my friends, sorry we went over. This is what happens when they let me, do the big show by myself, with Jesse. But Jesse's not here to crack the whip like my sister and Susie do when they're here in the building with me. So my friends, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Pre-order the calendar if you haven't already done so before they go off pre-order. And they will not be available. They'll be available for sale later, but they will not be on sale. So don't wait for that. That's not coming. So my friends, until we meet